I got Nikko Jenkins. I got you.
What do you mean you got me?
I got your DNA at the murder scene. I got your DNA in the car.
Sir.
I got the weapon. I got Nikko Jenkins.
This is Nikko Jenkins. In 2013, he was 26 years old when he went on a killing spree in Omaha, Nebraska. 4 people died until the police built up enough evidence to bring Jenkins into an interrogation. Just after sunrise on August 11, 2013, a police officer patrolling the streets of Omaha, Nebraska, discovered the bodies of 2 men. They'd been shot in the groin and the head and left for dead in a white Ford pickup truck by a swimming pool. A truly gruesome sight. The police soon identified them as 26-year-old Juan Urbina Pena and 29-year-old Jorge C. Cajiga Ruiz. They'd been lured to the swimming pool with the promise of intercourse. A week later, the body of 22-year-old Curtis Bradford was found. He was just returning home from a night shift at a local store. And on August 21st, police responded to a 911 call about shots fired, only to find 33-year-old Andrea Kruger's lifeless body in a pool of red. She'd been shot in the face, neck, and shoulders. By now, the Omaha police were desperate. Who was taking these lives, and why? What linked these people, and what was the killer's motive? Well, it turns out Nikko Jenkins was making sacrifices to Apophis, an ancient Egyptian snake god. When he was arrested on an unrelated charge on August 30th, the police detectives had their suspicions about it, but little did they know what Jenkins would end up confessing in his 8-hour-long interrogation. First of all, investigators had the image of a female associate on surveillance footage at a local gun outlet buying the deer slugs. They had been used in all 4 crimes. Then there was footage that had been pulled from the cameras along the route to Kruger's abandoned SUV. It showed Jenkins with a gun. So the detectives brought Jenkins in for questioning and explained the situation to him. But first, it was Jenkins who explained the situation to the police.
What I'm about to do, you, the sheriff office, and you guys need to be honest with me.
Okay.
Because if we're going to make this work and get this closure for this family, you're going to have to tell me what you have and what you don't have. That way I know if I have to go get it for you, because these are my cousins.
Okay.
These are my 2 family members, the ones that were in the house that day.
Okay. Okay.
They're brothers, but the one of them, you think I'm a mental case. He's a severe mental case. He has documented being in Lincoln Regional Center, psychiatric hospital. See what I'm saying? So
Jenkins shows signs of mansplaining. His legs are wide open, making him look relaxed and confident. This is not something we normally see in criminals in interrogation rooms. By this time, most of them feel at least somewhat guilty as a result of societal pressure for committing the crime. If they don't feel sincerely bad for it, they at least know it's bad and know they'd been caught. But in Jenkins' case, there are no signs of this, at first at least. He explains that he wasn't at the scene of the crime to the detectives as if he's smart and the detectives are stupid.
I need to speak to her superiors about this. The ones that I know that can...
He's my boss.
This is a man.
The ones that I know that can make the...
Nikko, John Pankin.
I mean, first of all, this is going to be a long night, but you're going to get everything that you need to give her family closure. But I want you to understand something, and I'm going to say this very clearly. I was not there.
He wants to be the dominant figure in the room, even though he knows he's guilty. Getting caught after a killing spree must be stressful, right? Jenkins' shoulders should be tense, raised to his ears, but they aren't tense at all. They are completely at ease. He shows 0 signs of stress. From the first seconds of the interrogation, the detectives knew they were dealing with an unusual kind of psychopath. Nikko Jenkins also starts blabbering on about his cousins and how he couldn't talk about these cases back in prison because he had family there.
They're brothers, but the one of them, you think I'm a mental case. He's a severe mental case. He has documented being in Lincoln Regional Center, psychiatric hospital. See what I'm saying? So he goes into it, like even when y'all arrested me, I don't know if you were on the team, but he was acting up when they were pulling us out the house. Okay. You know what I'm saying? So I just don't want this to, that's why I didn't want to talk down at the jail, because there's family members on my dad's side, because this is on my father's side.
Okay.
This was them, my little cousins, the one that were in the house with me. That when I got served the search warrant.
Right.
This was their ritual of sacrifice.
See how he's still telling the detectives what to do? He is completely unaware that usually it's the other way around. But in his mind, he has an excuse for it. In fact, this is what he tells the detectives when he first sees them.
I like to be alone. I need to speak to someone.
Okay.
Because that's what makes my mind frame goes back. I'm scared. schizophrenic, bipolar, sir. I don't take medication, so right now, that's why I'm trying to stay. That's why I told them they need to hurry up when I'm in this mind frame.
Okay.
So that when I speak to you, it's clear.
I am.
But another thing, what I'm about to do to you, the sheriff office, and you guys need to be honest with me.
Okay.
Because if we're going to make this work and get this closure for this family, you're going to have to tell me what you have and what you don't have. That way I know if I have to go get it for you, because these are my cousins.
Okay.
These are my two family, the ones that were in the house that day.
Okay.
Apparently, Jenkins had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and OCD by the time he was 9 years old. He spent all his adult life in and out of prison, and he had always felt ignored by the mental health professionals. On an IQ test, he scored 98% of the population. With a low intelligence, mental health issues, and an obsession with violence, Jenkins became everyone's worst nightmare. But back to the interrogation. After telling the cops what to do and what not to do, he started to talk about his religion.
My religion of Kathoni Asupel, that's the underworld. He was like on the mummy, the black book.
The detectives didn't have to ask anything. He just carried on, jumping from one topic to another. Notice how Jenkins now begins using a lot of hand gestures and couples them with an excessive nodding. He even points out with his finger, which again is uncommon with criminals who have some kind of shame. He insists that what he did was a necessary sacrifice to the ancient Egypt gods. Jenkins continues to express himself freely without shame, anxiety, or sadness in his tone or body language. He's at ease and confident that he will help the detectives get to the bottom of the story. In fact, he feels proud for being able to shed some light on the case for the detectives.
I never knew the who, the what, the when, the where. Only thing I gave was the intelligence. Okay.
Describe this to me. What this 9mm? Describe it to me.
Describe the weapon.
Yes.
It's a high point. It's a high point. I believe it's a high point rifle. But it shoots 9mm slugs. And if you was to see this weapon, you would not believe that it was the murder weapon.
Nikko Jenkins might appear confident and even defiant towards authorities, but his agitated gestures betray his underlying anxiety. In the vast majority of criminal cases, the bad seed is planted during their childhood. So what happened to Jenkins when he was a little boy? When he was only 7 years old, Nikko brought a gun to school. By the age of 10, he'd been charged with serious theft 3 times. So you can imagine the situation at home. He was raised by his parents, David and Lori. This couple was known to the police as hellraisers. Substance abuse, escalating violence, and child neglect were amongst the most recent frequent charges to this family. But there were more. The Jenkins family was connected to 150 cases in Omaha. It's unclear just how bad it is for Jenkins at home, but violence was the norm, and guns were always lying around. He was never at home, and he spent more time in arrest than free. This lifestyle can be seen throughout the interrogation. But something odd is about to happen.
Understand, man? I understand how hard this is for me right now, because I'm portraying my family. Do you understand it? This is not just me. I understand one family's getting closure, you know, but I'm literally betraying my family and my bloodline.
After
You alright?
you all right, man? You all right, man?
That's what I don't understand, man. Is that I was in the Nebraska corrections, man. All I wanted was help from the people, man.
Remember how he was the dominant figure in the room? Jenkins was confident that the detectives relied on him to solve the case, as if he was the chief detective, not the main suspect. He looks straight at the detectives and doesn't even get up from his chair. With every inch of his body, he is saying, "I am the one who is in control," as he threatens the officer.
What I'm about to do to you, the sheriff office, and you guys need to be honest with me.
Okay.
Because if we're going to make this work and get this closure for this family, you're going to have to tell me what you have and what you don't have. That way I know if I have to go get it for you, because these are my cousins.
Notice how his head falls to the side before he falls. Something happened to his brain. There was an irregularity, dissonance. First he had this spike, then he fell. This incident may imply schizophrenia, but always know it's very hard to pinpoint a specific brain anomaly. How do we know this? His body language is reversed. He's on the ground, like a child, submissive. Notice how his voice goes up and he sounds hurt.
That's what I don't understand, man. Is that I was in the Nebraska corrections, man. All I wanted was help from the people, man.
Nikko Jenkins has become the ingrown child, returning to whatever left the negative mark on him when he was little. In most cases, a criminal's behavior reflects negative childhood experiences because children are defenseless and in constant need of care of attention. When a child experiences neglect, rejection, or violence, they copy this behavior as a coping mechanism. It is a very sad and vicious cycle that can only stop when a person rises above their family history. In Jenkins' case, a whole psychological profile can be drawn from this moment. He spoke about Apophis, the ancient Egyptian snake god that commanded his actions. But this was just the mask he chose. Beneath it, there is a strong need to self-destruct. We again see no display of emotion, including his few moments of breakdown, which I've discussed. There is irreversible neuropsychiatric damage. He has developed psychopathy and antisocial behavior from a very early age. This means that he has shut down empathy and emotion towards other people. Apophis was probably his only friend while going through this destructive sequence of violence events. He confided in Apophis, but the god didn't help him after all. The pain and the violence never stopped. Recall Hitchcock's Psycho. We know this piece is mainly based on the psychoanalytic theory of fraud, but it may help visualize what is going on in Nikko's brain. This god became a part of his brain, and since the god failed to save him, this is where he developed masochistic behavior. He started by making others forcefully experience the pain he has gone through. He wanted payback, but the newly emerging anomaly now made him take pleasure in both others' pain and his own. He hurt himself, carving things on his face, and cut his reproductive organ. He was severely degraded during the violence of his childhood, so this became part of his broken personality. Nikko Jenkins did not want to live. He tried taking his life several times. Because of the horrors he experienced during his childhood, he doesn't have a personality. He only carries the marks of reinforcements and projections of the people who left these violent marks on him. He is in between the person he is trying to become and the dispositions he was inflicted with. In the interrogation, this is translated into his confident, dominant persona and the submissive, childlike one. Considering his gruesome murders, Jenkins isn't a pity case, but a lesson to all parents. Every action has a reaction. Everything you do leaves a big mark on your child. Let's move on to this video.
You need one copy or not? Yes, please. Okay. But I'm telling you right now, what I just given him, I will testify to that. And this is the first time that I've ever aided and assisted law enforcement in my life. So any jury, any judge, any prosecutor will be, once I sit on that stand and testify to this, it's golden. Any jury is not going to look at me and say, oh, he's told before and he's done. With my history and my reputation and this first time testimony of ever aiding assist law enforcement, and everything that I'm saying is accurate.
Okay.
Jenkins eventually sat on his chair again and spread his legs like before, but his dominance has not weakened. His spine is not straight, and he is bending in front of the detective saying, I will testify, displaying submission. After returning from his submissive moment, Jenkins is ready to make a full confession. He casually walks the detectives through his 4 murders and explains his thinking process and how he lured each of his victims into their deaths. Although his position is overall relaxed, he is not as confident or assertive as he was before. Then he portrays himself as the victim.
I am documented psychiatrically disordered. I'm documented chemically imbalanced. This is a fact.
Yeah.
So my point is,
We're well aware of that.
my point is this though. This family didn't deserve this.
Right.
This could have been prevented had it not been for the Nebraska Department of Corrections doing what they knew what they supposed to have did. And they never gave me an opportunity. They never gave me an opportunity for treatment because I wouldn't take the medicine.
So he knew very well that he was confessing to Andrea Kruger's murder so that her family could get closure. But he wanted to make it about himself too. By pointing out his mental health issues, Jenkins is justifying his crimes. He has now gone back to the proud son of his family role. He comes from a family of notorious criminals, so he wants to be just like them, or at least part of him does. Finally, he was ready to give a full testimony, and he let the detectives know. Now Jenkins seems to think that he is gaining the upper hand again. He is explaining to the detectives why his testimony is golden, simply because he and his family have an awful criminal record, and being honest with the police is first. In his mind, this is a grand deed. Then he starts negotiating with the investigator, again going back to the police with zero emotion and a confident body posture. But this time, the detectives won't have it.
I got Nikko Jenkins. I got you.
What do you mean you got me?
I got your DNA at the murder scene. I got your DNA in the car.
Sir.
I got the weapon. I got Nikko Jenkins. I don't need to make... I don't care about it. I just want other people that are involved in it. What the hell happened out there? And why? I already... I know who, I know what. I know when. I know where. And then when I talked to you earlier, you were saying stuff about a carjacking.
The detectives asked Jenkins for specific details about his murders, but as you've seen so far, Jenkins speaks a lot, but says little, so he keeps telling the detectives irrelevant details. He looks like he still thinks he can get away with it, so the detectives make it clear he's going to jail anyway. As Jenkins doesn't know how to react to this, he goes into submissive again. He babbles, turns the table and pulls himself toward it, then ignores the detectives in another display of childlike behavior. Notice how he doesn't respond when the detective says,
I got Nikko Jenkins.
he is indifferent to himself. The broken personality case we discussed. Nikko never really got to know himself. Several psychiatrists evaluated Jenkins during his time in prison and following the murder spree.
Yeah, he's insane. He's a psychopath. Well, you could be both. You could be insane and a psychopath.
But opinions on his diagnosis varied from doctor to doctor. Some said psychosis or schizophrenia. Some said antisocial behavior. Things got murky as some of these diagnoses were offered following his trial. And the prosecution and defense teams have different interests in mind, so their psychiatrists can mold the reality a little. According to Dr. Todd Grande,
after Jenkins was sentenced, his behavior remained consistent with psychosis.
after he was arrested and charged with the 4 murders, he was adamant that he didn't do them and kept saying he will go to Cuba and make nuclear weapons. He also sued Nebraska for releasing him from prison in 2013, just weeks later. He believes there are many signs that he should have been kept locked up. He'd promised he was going to sacrifice people to Apophis, and nobody listened. He remains one of the most dangerous criminals in the world, a psychopathic, manipulative killer with a wide array of mental issues and a history of violence. The victim's family waited 4 years for justice to be brought, as he will be behind bars for the rest of his potentially short life. It's sad and concerning to think that there are children out there who simply don't get a chance at a normal, loving upbringing.